Hi, this is Theo, and you are listening to Between Two Trains, a bi-monthly business podcast where we interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs in the North Cab area. Today, your host is Van Pappas of Oxygen Financial and special guest Mark Berkey of Oxygen Financial. And now, another episode of Between Two Trains.
Okay, welcome to Between Two Trains, a business podcast that comes to you twice a month, and today we got a guest from Jewel Creations, and we'll bring her on in a second. And again, for the second episode in a row, I got my good friend Mark Berkey as my co-host. Mark, welcome again to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
So last episode, we introduced you and we talked about Oxygen Financial, but this episode, I wanted to get back to our Entrepreneur Talk section. And this week, I wanted to talk about business wills. You know, we have a lot of business owners listening to the show, small business owners. And tell us, Mark, exactly what is a business will?
What it really does is it says what happens in the event of your death. What do you want to have happen to your business? But the other aspect that comes into a buy-sell agreement or the sort of what I call the estate planning documents for business is if the owner is disabled, who's going to run the business and keep it going so that once the owner's rehabilitated and can come back to work, there's still a business to come back to. So
I think that's so important. I think a lot of times business owners are so driven by running their business that they forget about the risk part of it or the back end part of it. As you said, what happens if they become disabled? They're the primary worker. They're driving the business, and now what happens? So yeah, I think this is a great topic and one that all business owners probably should reach out to someone like yourself as a financial advisor to help them with. But besides that, would they also need a lawyer to come into this arrangement?
yes, because we don't do the legal work, but we connect them, whether it's with their own attorney or attorney in our network, because you want to have the attorney do it, because each state's laws are specific. And so I always bring in attorneys to make sure that it's done properly. And that way you can breathe easier.
Well, that's great. And I think those of you listening to the show, reach out to Mr. Berkey here, and he can fill you in more about how to go through that process of creating your business will and buy-sell agreement, disability, and whatnot. So you're listening to Between Two Trains. You can hear us on all kinds of sources like iTunes, and we announced last episode that we got picked up by Google Play Music, which we're really excited about. We come to you every month from the Chambly Chamber of Commerce offices, and so we're so excited about what's going on in downtown Chambly. If you haven't been to downtown Chambly recently, you should take a look. A lot of exciting things going on. We're going to take a short break and bring you our sponsors, a word from our sponsors, and come back to you with Jewel Creations. Stay tuned.
Do you want to get on the freight train of social media marketing? Go to www.turnsocialintosales.com. Use the code Chambly to get $100 off to the single best 2-day social media bootcamp you will ever attend. Are you tired of not getting leads on LinkedIn or Facebook, SEO not working, or figuring out how to get on TV and radio and much more? Go to www.turnsocialintosales.com for a 2-day bootcamp special for Chambly. Use the code Chambly for $100 off. Go to turnsocialintosales.com today.
Welcome back to Between Two Trains. Thank you to our sponsors. And we have Kathy Kinev from Jewel Creations on the show today. Kathy does a variety of things with jewelry, design, appraisals, all kinds of great stuff. Kathy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks for inviting me.
All right. So, Kathy, tell us about your business. When did it start? You've been around for a while now, right?
1983.
1983. Here in the Atlanta area the whole time, or were you somewhere else?
Mostly Atlanta area.
Okay. All right. So you do custom designs, right? What would be considered a custom design? Rings, jewelry? You do it all, or?
Well, I mostly design in jewelry,
Okay.
which is rings, earrings, pendants, anything. And I usually take the client's jewelry and remake it, or I can buy we can purchase new things and, make it with new stones.
So if my wife wanted to take her engagement ring, you could take the stone out of the engagement ring and make something fabulous for her.
Right.
So where you currently have a physical location, it's here in Chambly? You're on Shalford?
Yep, I'm on Shalford Road.
Okay, and you've been there for how long?
16 years, 15 years.
Okay. Now, why there? Is there something particular that you said this is a good place for this, or just close to home? Or?
Closer to home. Decided not to be in Buckhead anymore because I had a jewelry store in Buckhead for 18 years.
Okay.
And decided to quit doing.
I'm assuming
that
the
kind of
rents in
storefront,
Buckhead just went crazy, right?
Well, the rents in City of Atlanta started charging a lot more money for their business licenses and all that stuff.
Gotcha.
What actually got you into going out on your own as opposed to working for somebody else?
Well, I have a degree in jewelry design and silversmithing from Georgia State University. And when I finished my degree, I decided that I wanted to be doing this for a living rather than being a professor like the rest of my fellow students are now professors across the United States. So instead of doing that aspect of the jewelry business of teaching it, I decided I wanted to make it and have people wear something that they could wear every single day and enjoy. So my whole idea was to open the jewelry store. So I've been self-employed basically for over 35 years. And I've always had it in my head to be self-employed because that's what my dad was until the day he died.
Okay.
So that's the idea. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you've got all kinds of awards and whatnot. The best use of platinum in color from AGTA in 2016, Spectrum Award, Bridal Honors in 2016, the SWJA President's Award, the GJA Design Contest a couple of years, JA scholarships. They go on, and I don't really know what all those letters mean, but
Right.
They sound pretty impressive. So, tell me a little bit about, you started the business in the 80s, you've gotten all these awards, where are we today with this? Is this something where we've hit the critical mass? Are we sort of, what's a normal year like for you, as far as your business?
A normal year looks like I do a lot of appraisals, so people bring
Okay.
me their items.
So it's
I
not just the
appraise
jewelry
estate
design,
pieces.
it's the appraisals too.
Right, I do estates a lot. So someone brings in all their family's jewelry, like, anywhere from 5 pieces to 200 pieces. I evaluate and photograph every single piece. They could use it for estate evaluation or for estate or for insurance purposes. Whatever purpose the appraisal needs to be, that's what I do.
Yeah.
And then the other part of what I do is I literally can remake things or do custom designing. So I'm a metalsmith as well as the appraisal hat. And the reason why I do that is that when you have a jewelry store, you have to have lots of stock and a lot of stuff around. I decided to be a private jeweler and not go that direction, because in these days it makes a lot more sense to do that than to do a jewelry store, because people aren't going to stores anymore. They're going to someone who will take care of them, or they're finding it on the internet. Just like this podcast, you're going to find it on the internet.
Gotcha. So unlike the classic Deke Yeller and Son jewelry store, you're saying, people are now moving into more of a personal relationship. Like you'd be like my banker, but for jewelry.
Just like what you do, Van.
Okay.
Is personal.
It's
just
very
like
personal.
What both of you guys do.
Okay.
You have to talk to the person one-on-one. A lot of the time when someone comes into my office and I'm looking at their ring, I can tell where it's worn, where it needs to be repaired. And when I see it in person, I can say, that particular type of jewelry is not good for you. You need something that will stand up to more of the wear that you have. And then some people have a very intricate piece of jewelry that hardly looks worn, and they wear it every single day. So everybody has a different way that they wear a piece of jewelry, just like you would have the tires in your car. So this has to be addressed, and you have to see that person in person to be able to tell that. It makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What's been the most exciting piece of jewelry that you designed?
Yeah.
Well, the Spectrum Award winner that I did a year and a half ago was pretty exciting. I had the stones. There's 3 rubies, 3 sapphires, and 3 savorites, and I acquired them one after the other over a 3-year period, and I sat and looked at it for 2 years. Literally looked at these stones, sitting there, next to my desk. I designed the ring 3 or 4 times, didn't look right. And then one night, the idea popped into my head, literally in the middle of the night. I woke up, pulled my phone over, drew it on the phone, and then got up the next day, ordered the materials, figured it out, ordered the materials, put it together in like 2 weeks. But it was a 2-year thought process, literally 2-year thought process. And then, they have literally, AGTA has literally used that in there. I was just talking to a friend of mine. She says she saw it again in another magazine last week, and that was a year and a half ago. So they're still using my ring as an advertisement for the American Gem Trade
So
Association's
did you
Spectrum
make
Award.
this specifically for the contest, or
I made it.
you just made it?
I made it. Yeah, I just.
And then
the design
said, once
in
it
my
was
head.
made, then you said, hey, I'm going to enter this in the contest?
Oh,
or-
it's too spectacular not to. There's very few things that are like original designs, because every design out there, you can trace the idea of that design back, if not 200 years, I can tell you 2,000 years. So every single piece of jewelry that is out there goes back to some design over 2,000 years ago, which is my other expertise, is ancient jewelry technology. But
Oh,
that's
you
for
and my
another
wife, and my wife's an archaeologist, anthropologist. Y'all need to get together and talk.
day. Right.
So, so this ring, this award-winning ring, do you still have it, or did you
I
sell
still
it?
have it.
Okay.
I still have it. Yeah.
So if I wanted to buy it, what would it cost me?
I think it was 45,000.
45,000.
Right.
This is one Mark, you got 45,000 I can borrow?
Spare change.
We might be able to arrange it.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the appraisals.
Right.
We talked about, you said you do this, and this intrigues me because, Mark and I deal with estate planning a lot where, hey, we've got a client that passed away. I'm helping my mother right now. My father passed away 3 months ago, helping her with her estate. And, she told me that she had this safety deposit box with a bunch of stuff in it. And it's like, okay, well, we need to value whatever's in there. So how much of your business is that? Is that a bigger part of your business than the actual jewelry design, or is it just sort of keep the lights on? Or like if I wanted to come in with my estate, do you charge a flat fee, or how do you charge me?
Evaluations on an estate piece depends on how many pieces it is, how long it takes me to do it. And I have to usually see the pieces to tell, because if you have a piece of jewelry that has a stamp in it, like it's Tiffany's or some higher end piece, I got to know where. I have to know that it has that stamp in it. So usually what it is, I have one meeting with a client for $85, and I look at all the pieces, and I give you an estimate of what it is. I give you a range. So it's like, 6 pieces could be $400 to $800 for those 6 pieces to appraise it.
Okay.
So, and that's because if I have to go look up federal trademarks, I got to find out where that piece came from. A lot of times I contact the person who made it originally, and I have to find out what their evaluation is on it. Just like if someone saw one of my pieces and it has my name in it and I have 2 federal trademarks, and the federal trademark will be in there, an appraiser can look at that and say, that piece of jewelry has the federal trademark in it, and they can actually find me through the federal trademark website. Look me up, call me up, and say, how much would you charge to replace that item? Because I'm a designer and I'm a known designer and I have these big awards, they have to come to me. They can't go to a normal jeweler and say, how much do you charge to replace that? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So every item depends on what it is. I mean, if it's something really simple, this is a gold chain, it can be $40 to appraise it. But if it's a complex piece, it can be hundreds of dollars.
All right.
Because
So-
it's a time.
So
It's
if we've got clients that have, I'm just thinking back when my dad's been gone 17 years, but my mom has been 6, and we looked at jewelry that we didn't even know was there, and I don't really know who it was. or who owned it.
Right.
But we're looking at that, and I don't think anything's there, but it may be worth me coming in and having you look at it.
Yeah, I did an estate for a client 2 years ago. A lawyer came to me with 400 pieces of jewelry. It was a big box. It was 2 feet tall, 2 feet wide, 2 feet to big, stuffed full of stuff. Most of it was costume jewelry. I went through the entire box forensically, and the costume jewelry was all lined, in sections, and there was a handful of fine jewelry that was in there that was very dirty and didn't look very good. 2 pieces turned out to be platinum and very nice. And those 3 pieces basically paid for the entire appraisal of all the rest of the costume jewelry, because it took me a month to do it. So I cleaned it and found out that those 3 pieces were very fine. I can forensically look at something and tell by the way something is, what the stone looks like, and the condition of the ring, the stamps inside the ring, and what it looks like to tell approximately what the age is.
Okay.
And a lot of times my clients can figure out who it was that owned it originally by that dating, approximate dating.
So just to recap, to make sure I got it right. So someone comes in, they have estate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For $85, you'll give them an assessment and say, okay, to appraise this batch of stuff,
Right.
it's going to cost X, depending on how much time you think it's going to take
exactly.
you to do
I mean,
that.
it could be one piece that's $85. We've already established that. We're
And
done.
boom, you're done.
Right, exactly, or less, depending on how much time it takes me. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So now, is this just you, or are there any employees or family members working with you, or
Nope, just me.
just you? So, the storefront, is it one where like just people off the street could come in, or are you like an appointment only? How does your store work?
Appointment only.
Appointment
Call
only.
me first. Don't drop by. Call me
Okay.
first, in all circumstances, or
Okay.
email me. Call me, email me.
What's the best way to reach you? Put it in there now.
Yeah. We usually say this. We usually
the
ask
end.
at the end, but go
Right.
ahead. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, Kinev at jewelcreations.com, or go to my website, www.jewelcreations.com, or 404-634-8355.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, you've been listening to Between Two Trains, a business podcast, and we come to you from the beautiful offices of the Chamblee Chamber of Commerce.
Got one question. What would you tell a potential entrepreneur? What's the most important thing to do when starting a business?
I know it's been a long time since you started your business, but think back. What would be the most
I
important
help
thing?
other people start businesses too. So I tell people to be patient, pay attention, and hire someone for something you can't do. And that means accountants, lawyers, whatever it is, and don't go
Financial
cheap.
planners.
Financial planners, yeah. Don't go cheap. Just hire the best person you got, hire the best lawyers, whatever. Just don't skimp on that part. You'll be happy you did.
Great advice.
Well, going with
Great
that
advice.
same question, when thinking back to when you started, what would you say the biggest challenge? Because you may have answered this with some of what you just said, but what was the biggest challenge when you opened your business?
The fact that I didn't have a graduate gemologist degree, and people were bringing in stones from other parts of the world, and they couldn't speak English very well, and they couldn't tell me what it was. So I'm looking at a stone from some other country, and I didn't know what it was. So I had to acquire a lot of education. I'm a GG and I'm an FG. I'm a fellow Gemological Association from Great Britain, and I'm a graduate gemologist. And I teach gemology. So that's part of my donation to my community, is I teach gemology. So you have to have that advanced education to do what I do, and it made a big difference to get those degrees.
So, how when you, in our world as financial planners, one of the big degrees is the Certified Financial Planning degree, the CFP. And, as a CFP, I know sometimes I have clients that specifically want to use someone who has that behind there. Anyone can hang a shingle saying they're a financial advisor, but there's, a special something. So is that similar to what you're talking about? People come to you and say, hey, I don't want just anyone. I want someone with those letters, those degrees.
Right. Well, that's for gemology, but for appraisal, that's different. I'm National Association of Jewelry Appraisers. In that you go through pretty much every 3 years. I do a specific thing for color. Have my color vision tested every 3 years so that I can see color. And they also have criteria that I send an appraisal into them to make sure that I write the appraisal okay. I do it's personal property, so it doesn't have quite as many. Like if you're doing real estate, you have to have a certain certified appraiser because the state certifies those. Jewelry appraisal is personal property appraising, so it's different. But I have more credentials than most people do in that. So, yeah, so that's, I'm National Association of Jewelry Appraisers plus the 2 gemology degrees.
Well, it sounds like you've got all kinds of credentials. I'm very impressed with that. I'm impressed with all the awards you've won. And obviously, I will be coming to you personally myself with any of my clients that need those appraisals done. We are going to move into our last section of the podcast that we call Hot or Not. And if I believe you've listened to the show before, so we ask the guest a couple of phrases, and we say, ask them to tell us if they think this is a hot thing or not such a hot thing. So I'll get us started here, Mark. Networking, CEO roundtables. They have all these things that you can go to network and interact. Are these events, these networking events, and these networking groups, hot thing or not such a hot thing? Is it something you would do?
I've done it a couple of times. I like it. It's a good thing. I think it's lukewarm.
She didn't actually. Okay, I was going to say she didn't actually say hot,
yeah,
so lukewarm.
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 Then, what about marrying an entrepreneur?
Oh, we asked this last week.
Oh, that's extremely hot.
Yeah.
Yes, got to do it.
Got to marry an
All right.
entrepreneur. Now, is your significant other an entrepreneur as well? Or?
He's an actor, so there you go.
Okay.
Eternally optimism, eternal optimist, I mean, seriously.
Well, I love asking every guest, especially ones that live or work in the Chamblee area, this next hot or not. And that's just simply downtown Chamblee.
I don't have anything to say about that except extremely hot and woohoo, go Chamblee.
I think this is the first guest we've ever had that's given us a woohoo. So I'm impressed with the woohoo.
And then what about art incubators?
That's an interesting. So, being in the jewelry business, you're just kind of an artist, so to speak. A lot of communities are creating these art incubators that gives artists a place to come and practice and do their stuff. And a lot of it's more paint related, but
Right.
You're seeing sculptures. And I'm curious if you're noticing jewelry in that art world, or is that really a separate division from art?
I see it at Sproul Art Center, which is not Chamblee.
No? But
I
Sproul's
see
a
it-
great place.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
It's great.
I see it at places around us for jewelry, but not for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're extremely hot. It's a fantastic thing, but it's not for jewelers as much. You have to go to Sproul or Callenwald, or there's various places around Atlanta that you can go for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And what would you say to somebody who talking about turning a hobby into a business?
Absolutely possible. You can do it. But if you look at anything that you do, it takes 40,000, how many hours was it? 10,000 hours. That's right, to become proficient at what you do. So whatever you do, you need to make a serious commitment to it. That's the main deal.
Yeah.
If you're going to go from a hobby to a business, it's not for the faint of heart, because being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart, but it's extremely rewarding because you do it all yourself.
But when you started, you went right into it. It wasn't something. Was it something you were doing on the side as a hobby before you started your business, or you pretty much said, "I'm starting this business right away"?
No, I went straight into being a
Yeah, you
business.
Straight
I
business.
didn't-
It was not a
yeah,
hobby.
and I worked for other people at the same time, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I did both at the same time because it's very hard to break into.
I always find it interesting, people who have these hobbies and then want to say, okay, I want to take it from a hobby to a business, because it is a challenging thing. You said that the time and the hours to become proficient, but then it's like, when do you place that capital and say, I'm gonna make that leap, quit my job, and actually do this as a real business rather than just something on the side. We've talked with other people, who do beer, and they do it,
Right.
you know, in their house, and it's like, all right, when do I make that jump from I'm brewing beer in my house to I'm actually brewing beer?
Well, that's where you hire an accountant, you crunch the numbers, and then you work that out. You do a business plan, which is the best thing to do. SBA has some fantastic resources on business plans. I haven't checked in the last 10 years, but they did a while back. And, you know, that's what you do. You do your planning, which is you talk to other people. You can talk to people for free. You can also hire people to help you out. The main thing when you're doing a hobby to a business, it's just you have to make that decision of how much of a pay cut you want. You know, how much pay cut can you stand? You have to have money saved up. That's all there is to it. But I did not do that from, you know, I did needlepoint when I was a kid. When I touched metal, it was over. So I knew that was what I was going to do. So I went straight into metal.
Okay.
Yeah, when I touched metal at Georgia State, did a jewelry class at Georgia State. I was going to be a painter.
And you were just hooked.
No, that was it. I was done. That was it. Metal's my thing. So touching metal.
It
and then,
called to you. It was your siren. It said,
I wasn't calling. I touched it.
okay.
Gold. Anyway, yeah.
Is there really, I mean, do you find one metal over the other, or you just work, I mean, you work with anything,
Well, I'm
right?
a master platinum smith and master goldsmith, but gold is my first love and platinum's my second, but platinum's one I'm known for that. I'm known for both, but it's, you know, it has its own thing. But it was, you know, like I said, it wasn't a hobby. It was just, I just went straight into it. I didn't pass go or anything on that. I just went straight into it. But if you're doing a hobby and you're doing it on the side, there's a trillion resources out there. A lot of places to sell on the internet. I'm not good at that. I'd rather sell in person. So there's various places in Atlanta you can sell. You can consign your work to various places. As a jeweler, you can do that also.
So more of your selling is that way as opposed to online.
My items are for sale in New York City. I don't have anybody in Atlanta right now, but in New York City.
Yeah.
Because that's, you have a gallery there.
So
handles my work.
let's talk about this
And then
for a
there's
second. I know
private
we're at
clientele.
the end of our show, but I'm
Yeah.
curious to know. You said, you know, you don't sell really online because that's not your thing. You know, do you feel like it's just because of, hey, I'm timid about online, or, you know, do you think if you had someone helping you with the online piece of it, a partner, so to speak, that could really blow up your business and expand it from more than what you're doing, or you just, you know, okay, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I would love that. I just haven't put my focus on that. You know, I'm focused on trying to sell online. Being an appraiser refers back into my, you know, making things and designing things. And the one thing I see is that there's price points you have to meet. And I'm not real interested in meeting certain price points to sell lots of items. I don't want to make 500 of anything. I'm not going to make 6 of anything. I usually make 1 of something. and then I follow it up with a different design if I'm doing the art jewelry.
Well,
So
with
that's a
unique
little
stuff
different.
like that would tend, I mean, I would believe that I would tend to say that they're higher priced items because they're unique, they're one of a kind, rather than, like you said, 500 of the same thing that I'm going to sell for $49.95.
Right.
So did you say you're in like a jewelry store in New York, or is it more of an art gallery?
I'm in an art gallery in New York City.
Okay, that's what I thought I heard you say.
And so your pieces are
it's for
there.
jewelry, but it's and there's various places in Atlanta that sell too. But I've been in galleries off and on for 35 years.
So it's really looking at a unique clientele that's more going into the art gallery looking for your work and your
Correct.
pieces, which
Right.
are unique.
Right.
Okay.
What's the most expensive piece of jewelry you've ever
Made?
made, sold? I mean, what are we talking about? You mentioned the award-winning piece was what you said, 45,000 or something. You know, have we ever topped 45,000?
145,000.
And for one piece of jewelry,
Right.
145,000. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really
It was
impressive.
incredible.
That's
Beautiful.
impressive.
Was
Well,
that a ring, or was that what? It was a ring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a ring.
that is one awesome
Beautiful.
ring.
It was. Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Well, you've been listening to Between Two Trains. We come to you twice a month, and we've had Kathy Kinev from Jewel Creations. Kathy, you mentioned earlier your contact information. One more time, if they want to make an appointment with you, where do they call? What's the number?
Kathy Kinev, 404-634-5555. 8355.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. And Mark, thank you again for 2 episodes in a row being my co-host. Any parting words?
Just glad to be here and keep making the unique designs.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you for listening, and stay tuned. Next month, we got more great guests coming to us, and as always, you can listen to us on iTunes and SoundCloud or our website, betweentwotrains.com. That's the number 2, trains.com.